Despite its reputation for unpredictability, the AMGSC does tend to see some drivers dominate the championships from time to time. But after 3 races into Season 7, only one driver has repeated a win out of all 3 classes. It's already shaping up to be a classic championship fight, and so it's a classic circuit. Road America should hopefully offer some relief to those who hate interclass traffic, but it will no doubt make up for that by in-class overtakes with the plethora of good passing opportunities. We'll see who uses them best as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group's Sports Car Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth covering the LMP1 and LMP2 classes is Bill Suit Zahn. Keeping us up on the GTE class is Taylor Burris. Behind the scenes, our director Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Taylor, Road America is known for its high speeds and long lap times, but in these LMP1s, I have a feeling the laps will be ticking off pretty darn quickly.
Yes, they will indeed, and good evening all, and welcome to America's National Park of Speed, Road America. Located in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, United States, this 4-mile or 6.5-kilometer 14-turn track is just a beautiful track that all of us here at GSRC love to watch racing at. Opened in 1955, it is only one of the few circuits in the world to have maintained its original configuration since it opened. Drivers can hit speeds approaching 200 miles an hour due to its long straightaways here. One of Road America's most famous races is the Road America 500, as well as many other major events held here. Currently, the IMSA WeatherTech series has held the showcase for that Road America event. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, the iRacing Camel GT series came together to host a special Road America event. You can actually catch that series on our GSRC webpage on the videos channel. So now, let's take you on board for a GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Road America. The front stretch is by far the longest and fastest straight on the circuit, so turn 1 is easily going to be a good passing zone. Expect a few draft battles to erupt here, and of course, to be finished in this first corner. But this is a pretty rapid turn. It's only down 2 gears, and then you're back on the power trying to avoid understeering into the dirt. You've got a short blast down to 3, which is definitely one of the more important corners you'll navigate. Don't worry about your entry here so much as your exit. There's a lot of time to be lost if you get back to the gas late. That's because you're now on the moraine sweep. It's not exactly straight, so keep that in mind when you're battling with someone so that you don't drift into one another. But the real reason you see a lot of passes here is the heavy braking into turn 5. However, remember that this is a pretty decent drop downhill, and it'll be embarrassingly easy to outbrake yourself. Then you climb back into turn 6. The difficulty here is that the crest makes the window for braking very narrow. Wait too long, the car will just slide its way into the gravel. After that comes turn 7. As fast as this corner is, you'll need a lift to make it through. Now you're into the hurry downs. Surprisingly, despite the short run, you'll see passes into here from time to time. It's pretty sharp, so there's lots of braking, and that creates opportunities. This brings us into the famous carousel. Try to be patient as you swing the car through here. A later apex will do you much better than getting greedy on the power and having to make a sudden lift. Then, once you finally exit the corner, you'll see the notorious kink. As much downforce as this GTE car has, you still can't take this flat out. Precision is critical because as you fly through the kettle bottoms, a lack of speed will make you susceptible to an attack into Canada Corner. Try to straighten out this braking zone and then get the car turned in. You don't have much time after that before you're taken into turn 13. This blind crest is tricky in just about any car and is another thread-the-needle situation in the Ford. Finally, there's the last corner. This is another one I'd advise to not ruin your exit on. Now that we're coming back to the front stretch, carrying your momentum is of the utmost importance. You don't want to find yourself a sitting duck on your way to turn 1. Climb up the hill, hold it to the left, and hopefully you've now finished a lap around Road America.
There you see a lap around Road America with quite a bit of length around it in the Ford GT, of course, but it will be much faster in the both LMP1 and LMP2 classes. I mentioned that we are 3 rounds in, and it's been a little bit interesting as far as winners. Bill has more details on that to update us on the points.
So many overlays, so little time. Let's get started going to the LMPM ones. Jesse Lyons has a win as the Wyvern Red driver takes over sole ownership of first place. Robert Tinsey has a win for TNT Gold. He slips down into second. 4 races at Road Atlanta for Wyvern Silver Cyander and Daniel Benefield for TNT Puffin allows Daniel Gralty for SRN Black to jump up 2 spots. Jason Deep Freeze DeVries for TMC Carbon has the other win and sits just off the chart in 6th. Let's go to the LMP2 standings where we see Billy Smith has a win and a pair of seconds for Autobahn West. SRN Black Scott McGarvey has yet to win, but he's also yet to finish off the podium. With 2 wins, Jason Girard's 12th at Sebring has him in 3rd. The privateer is looking forward to drop races being accounted for. Wyvern Red's Carter Kundinger's best result is a 6th, but his worst result is a 7th. He sits in 4th. TNT Carbon's Jason Lunday leaps onto the overlay with a pair of 5ths the last 2 times out. Moving to the GTE standings after winning the opener, TNT Carbon's Paul Oh My Darling has yet to see a podium. Stephen McGarvey has things going the right way, however, with a 8th, then a 3rd, then a 2nd. Is it time for a win? Well, the order would think so. The Comet has streaked onto the scene. Bradley Haley for Positive Sim Racing earned his first podium last time out. Alex Simonik has a win and a runner-up, but a 22nd in the opener is fated to be dropped when that time comes. SRM Black's Ryan Huff is fading, but hopes to bump up his opacity here in Wisconsin. A name conspicuous by its absence is Jeffrey the Mantra Ohms. He has a win, but he also has a pair of 24ths. Drop race is gonna be using those up early. Let's go. Hey, how about this? We get to bring you the GTE amateur standings. We're excited to be able to do this for you this season. The top 3 drivers hold positions 8th through 9th on the overall standing. Paul Lindsay is coming off a 4th. Talk about consistency. Emmanuel Ejere, well, he has finished all 3 events 10th. A 10th, a 10th, and a 10th. Kevin Santana for Autobahn West is still looking for a podium. Scott Corbin and GSRC fan favorite Jimbo Pfeiffer round out the graphic. The last one, we go to the team standings. Daniel Gralty, Scott McGarvey, Ryan Huff are all on the top 5 overlays for their respective classes. SRN Black increases its lead. Jimmy Hume and Emmanuel Ejere, well, they are doing a good job supporting Bob the Blade Tinsey for TNT Gold. Billy Smith and Kevin Santana are waiting for the big cheats, John Ulmer, to start doing what he does, score points. Autobahn West is in 3rd. TNT Carbon and SRN Orange fill up the graphic. Okay, that's enough, if not too much soup at one sitting. So if you keep filling up on that, you're going to ruin your appetite for Joe. So to cleanse your palate, let's go to Taylor for the keys to the race.
All right, well, first we're going to take a look at the series details for tonight. This is round 4 of our 14-race season of 7. So right now, this is going to be a little bit longer race tonight, 90 minutes instead of our usual 1-hour races. Setups are always open here, so the drivers can make adjustments to their car if need be, but their fuel is restricted a little bit, so that means they'll have to come in for a few more pit stops than normal. And then, of course, iRacing incident cap, which means that they have a certain amount of mistakes allowed before they are disqualified, up to 36. And, of course, no fast repairs, as Mr. Soup likes to have it, where it's just you break it, you bought it, that's it. So, but let's take a look at our keys to victories, though. As a matter of fact, pit stops will be a key for tonight. Some drivers we might see take that early pit stop due to the fact of the large track that this is. So drivers might try the opportunity to undercut people through their pit stops. So be careful to watch out for these drivers on that. Also, straight line speed. Road America has 3 major straightaways for drivers to make up speed and gain time. So aerodynamics will be a factor for some of these drivers. And then, of course, this is a big track. This is a 4-mile monster, one of the biggest here in the United States. So this gives drivers a little bit of room to breathe, to be able to get through traffic, no problem at all. But instead of that major conveyor belt like we saw at Road Atlanta last week, drivers will still need to be careful through certain parts when it comes to overtaking lap traffic, such as that kink, that high-speed section of the track. So, Joe, this track, I'm looking forward to watching these guys race here tonight.
Yeah, this is a favorite not just of drivers, but also of fans. It puts on a good show pretty consistently because of a lot of the factors you just pointed out as we watch Kevin O'Keefe work his way around. Actually, been a little surprised that he's out there today. I know he's a little worried that he might not be able to make the rest of the season. He could be changing jobs soon, he said. And we'll see whether or not Rutgers Kev will be able to continue to show up. Another one of those fan favorites, even though he's not streaming anymore. Now, they are in qualifying right now. This is what is considered the last chance qualifying. You may notice that there's multiple classes out on track. This is not the case for the rest of qualifying. Each class has their own 15 minutes so they don't trip over faster and slower classes. And then this last chance qualifying is for any driver who is not able to get into the session at the allotted time for this class. So it is just because this is sim racing. Drivers might have to show up late for whatever reason, various ones out there. The downside, though, to this, so that they can't game the system necessarily, is they cannot put a lap in their session necessarily. So drivers, of course, will be given a penalty if they get out there during their session and then come out for this one. And the downside, of course, to waiting for this one, even if you don't put a lap in yours, is that this is mixed class. So you have a greater chance of having your lap interrupted, which, Bill, is very important around here because it's such a long lap. They really don't get many opportunities in 15 minutes to knock one in. No, you got to be careful. And the good news about it, passing should be easy here. So if you find yourself down a few spots, you're okay. What you really want to make sure you do is get in a good qualifying lap. So at least you're not starting at the back of the field. And I think Taylor made a good point about these guys need a break from lap traffic. So 4 miles around should be a little less hectic. Although we're going 90 minutes, that means we're going to see it eventually. And the question is, how many pit stops today, at least for the LMP1 guys? Yeah, and that brings us to our pit reporter who's here with us today. Stefan Schlacker is down in pit lane to watch things and cover all that's happening. As we keep stressing, it's going to be very important. Stefan, one of the reasons I think we keep bringing it up, not just because of the lap length around here and the importance of getting those pit stops calculated right, but also just how long it takes to get down this pit lane.
Yeah, obviously it's time-wise one of the longest we have in the service, with over a minute on just the drive-through through this pit lane with a normal stop, and then having to take in a full fuel load, especially in those GTEs. That's going to be a very long time. So managing your stops, managing your fuel numbers will be very important here. And also don't forget, if you outbrake yourself into the pit lane, you might spin out because of that very big crest you have there at the pit entry cone.
We'll keep an eye on drivers as they're coming in. We'll send it to Stefan as soon as we see one starting to head his way. Just about 2.5 more minutes to go. Taylor, we did see that pit strategy came into play last year with the what was the prototype class, which has since become the LMP2s. The GTEs, they seem to have a little bit more leeway, but I have a feeling the drivers will want to limit it to that regular two-stop strategy for the reasons that we just talked about. Do you think that's any sort of worry for anyone other than damage?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Damage is going to be the main issue why a driver would need to come back to pit road more than twice. Drivers are going to need to make sure they communicate with their team to make sure that they come down pit road at the exact time that they need to in order to gain time on the competition or pull away from the rest of their competition. So we're going to be really keep focused on to see who will be the first one to blink, in a sense, to start the pit road cycle. So it's going to be a lot of interesting times when that pit road cycle starts coming through.
And as we've been watching the qualifying order up at the top, Bill, you noticed something that I think we've been kind of making note of as the season has gone on. Robert Tinsey is qualified way down, and this is something that's happened multiple times already this season, that he just hasn't been up there. What do you think's going on? Yeah, you know, one thing I can, on the good side for all the Robert Tinsey fans out there, I think he's a better racer than he is qualifier, at least in the new car. A lot of things to play with. Maybe he doesn't quite have that figured out yet, but he knows how to drive, and he knows how to get through traffic. That's why I picked up Bob the Blade. But right now, he's down in 7th, and he's behind John Ulmer. Now, you know, Joe, maybe we're just thinking, when you look, it's Ulmer and Tinsey right next to each other. That's probably how it would normally be. Maybe instead of complaining about maybe Tinsey being slow, maybe we got to say that Benefield and Andra and Slavonic and DeVries and Lyons, those guys have upped the game a little bit. Yeah, they're fast instead of the other guys are slow. As the clock continues to tick down, this is on board Leif Peterson, the Autobahn East driver, wheeling his way around. Should have enough time to get this lap in, but no more after this, because they can finish their hot laps once the checkered flag waves, but they can't take any more beyond that. Taking a lot of curb through turn 7 for him, and he's got to load up down into turn 8. Should be an interesting one, as the first 3 races very different. The first one was chaotic because of the new cars, with it being at Daytona, even though traffic usually would expect it to be an issue. Drivers had to adapt to that. And then we had Sebring, which was very bumpy and definitely caught a lot of drivers out, caused a lot of self-made incidents there. And then we had the chaos that was the road Atlanta circuit, where it was very difficult, very short to try and deal with the lap traffic. And now we're back to a track a lot more like Daytona, much more wide open, a lot more opportunities to deal with that. So we're all kind of curious to see if they worked the bugs out with this inter-class traffic. You saw that the checkered flag was up. Here's Leif Peterson coming up to the line. Let's see if he can improve that 6th place in class. This is in the slowest class. He crosses the line. Looks like he is not going to improve. He'll stay in 6th.
And Taylor, Joe was talking about chaos, but I got a driver who's had some chaos, and I'm covering on the LMP2s. There is Jason Girard. He's had a mistake, but your guy who's sitting on pole, Jeffrey Ohms, my gosh, talk about chaos. It's been all over him.
Yeah, poor Jeffrey. 2 24th place finishes out of the 3 races we've already have. He's starting off on a good foot by starting on pole, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Usually Jeffrey's good on the beginning of the race, but then sometime towards the end, if he works his way back outside the top 5, he gets caught up in some situation. So hopefully Jeffrey will be able to keep it up towards the front tonight. But I think Alex Ellis and Stephen McGarvey, those two I'm going to be keeping an eye on tonight, because they've been really fast. Stephen McGarvey's been consistent, so we'll have to really wait and see what happens when we go green flag racing.
A lot of unknowns still, even though we're now into the 4th race of the season. Drivers, fans will all become more familiar with how this will all play out. But for now, I think we're going to get just a little bit more of that unpredictability that I talked about. Let's go to the grid, since all the drivers have finished their qualifying, starting with our pole sitter, Daniel Benefield, only a 10th over Dennis Savretic over this 4-mile lap. That is very close between those two. Cy Andrew will begin row 2 in 3rd, with Jason DeVries in 4th. Jesse Lyon starts in 5th. He'll be flanked by John Ulmer, the Big Cheese. Robert Tinsey starts in the 7th position. Next to him will be Mike Young in 8th. And we go to row 5. That is Daniel Gralty in 9th, with Mark Wilson in 10th. Brandon Gracia continues in 11th there on the 2nd page of qualifying, and Lionel DePratt rounds out the rest of our LMP1 field, starting in 12th. Bill?
2 familiar names up front for the LMP2s. It is Jason Girard and Billy Smith going 1-2. Scott McGarvey in the hunt for the championship, going to be behind them. Carter Kundinger, always fast. If he can bring it home, it'll be a good result for him. Sheldon Rosenbaum sitting back there in 5th. Ross Booth and Mark Schindel behind them. Jason Lundy, the Puffin driver, coming over from Championship Motorsports. Good to see him here, having a good season. He sits behind those guys. James Stacy, Kevin O'Keefe, record can here as long as he can. He's going to be 22nd overall. Alan Haysback, Chris Pence, and then Sean, you got chocolate on my peanut butter Reese back there, the last car in this class. Taylor?
Starting on pole position in the GTE class will be Jeffrey Ohms, followed by Alex Ellis, your front row in GTE. Stephen McGarvey will be starting in the 3rd position in class, followed by Giuliano Romagnola in 4th. Ryan Huff with a good qualifying effort, followed by Leif Peterson. Paul Oh My Darling is going to come into the top 10. Jimbo Pfeiffer in the 00 will also be next, followed by Paul Lindsay, or Dean Moll in the 34th position overall. In 35th position will be Paul Lindsay, followed by Kevin Santana. Scott Corbin and Dave Hill will be next, followed by Samuel Scott and Dale Green, rounding out your top 40 in class. Followed by, next up will be Shane Hunter, then Matt Owens, followed by Mark Kradowski and Tim McLeish in 44th. Christopher Sherburne will be in 45th, and David Henry will be rounding out the rest of the field. He did not take a time in qualifying.
Now, there's a little bit of an error here. They do not have a pace car out there, which means it was accidentally set up with a standing start. Now, they have already been on the radio talking to the drivers, and I believe we saw this as well at Daytona. if I remember correctly. So I think they should be fine to try and sort this out. They're going to take a pace lap behind the lead car, which is going to be Daniel Benefield. He'll set the pace, and then they will start single file. Green flag is waving there, you see, but we're going to start on that pace lap as Benefield casually takes them off the line. Hopefully he'll lead us around a little bit quicker, Bill, since this is such a long pace lap around here.
Well, I brought my Broadway show tune songbook with me in case we need a little entertainment as we took this lap around, but I don't think we're going to need it now with a little faster pace car out there. I always worry, Joe, whenever the iRacers have to do something they're not planning on. It's like herding cats. Somebody never gets the message. These guys are pretty good.
Yeah, it looks like everybody got it. So I think they're going to behave. Just a little bit sad that we'll get a single file start around here. And it will cut in a bit to our race time. You can see the clock has already started.
That's very important. That, we talked about pit strategy. This is the clock is burning right now. So this may change up some guys who had a plan. Hey, they worked their way through 3. We haven't talked much about the corners. I love the corner that's coming up. One of my favorite corners to broadcast. Corner number 5 here at Road America. For me, it's like a diet. It's like, you know what it's like? It's like a V8. It tastes good and it's good for you. This corner is a passing zone, but a danger zone as well. Great passing in here, but you'll also see a lot of things go wrong.
Certainly will. And speaking of things maybe being a bit of a gamble like that, and two sides of a coin, well, let's do our traditional pick of the race. Let's go to Soup first. Who do you think's going to win today?
Dennis Savretic, he's due. He's been away for a while. It's good to see him up there. He's sitting second. No problem there. Jason Gerard and Billy Smith, it's between those two guys. I think they're going to get together. Scott McGarvey, big brother, gets the win down there. How about in GT3s, Taylor?
In GTE, really, it's going to be a tough mix-up. I think Stephen McGarvey, with his consistent runs, I think he will be the one who will be due for the win tonight.
Interesting calls. Stefan, I know you've been mostly focusing on pit lane and you're a bit new to the series. Would you want to make a call on your own? You don't have to, so no pressure.
Sure. I'm gonna pick Savage for my LMP1 pick. I've seen him already race in other series, and he's really strong in that LMP1 car. So with the times being that close, I think he's gonna do it. For LMP2, I'm gonna go also with McGarvey, just because I like his name, and I gotta have to go with Ooms in GTE. He's just too strong for the others, I think.
Yeah, Ooms has been pretty dominant in the past. Bill, what do the bookies say when you pick a driver based on their last name? Are they smiling or are they going on?
That's they like to take the money when that happens. You talk about Ooms, he's got to win. He cannot afford to have another bad result. And by the way, I would say between the pace of Daniel Benefield and the actual pace car, I'd give it to the pace car. Benefield's, come on,
he's cruising,
Daniel, pick it up.
He's going about 50 miles an hour or so, which I want to say the pace car usually does about 60. Would have thought that maybe they just put it on the pit limiter and run around under that.
He's saving fuel for himself right now.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that car has its knob for the fuel mode turned all the way down. Anybody who's worth their salt in those LMP1s certainly has to be thinking about that with what we've got going on in terms of the fuel consumption of the faster fields. As we come down to Canada Corner, this is another one that tends to be a little bit tricky. Bill was talking about how turn 5 tends to cause a few issues, and Taylor, we've seen that down into that right-hander as well, that the braking can be tough depending on what car you're in, and also just not sure if a driver's going to attack or not.
That is so true. You got to be careful with that, especially sometimes the car will wheel hop, and when you're braking into that corner, Canada Corner, it always seems to happen no matter what type of car you're driving in. And just, of course, you also got to wonder if a driver is going to make that attack on the inside or maybe try the outside. But, of course, he's got to worry about going out into the gravel trap. So it's going to be real difficult for the drivers to pinpoint when they're going to make that pass and when to attack. So right now, maybe might take it easy a little bit, or some just might go full throttle when it comes to the start of the race, as we're about to go green flag.
And it's supposed to be single file, but I don't know if you saw Savretic. He was looking to the inside. He still got jumped as now they accelerate away. Daniel Benefield leading our LMP1 class on the first official lap here around Road America in round 4 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. And that single file has really spread them out. Let's go down to the LMP2s.
Yes, it has. It may not be exciting, but it is safe. Jason Gerard out in front, Billy Smith, McGarvey. A little bit of a challenge back there as Carter Kundinger looking, diving up on the inside, picking up a position with Mark Schindel. Nice job. Let's go to Taylor.
Jeffrey Ooms gets a really good jump on the start of the race as they head down the front straightaway. Alex Ellis did not miss the start almost, as Stephen McGarvey now looks to the inside a little bit down towards turn 1. It is still single file. Giuliano Romagnola holds on to the 4th position, followed by Ryan Huff. Joe?
So, pretty clean start here for all 3 classes to be expected here with a single file start. But Daniel Benefield taking advantage of things. He's still looking for a win this season. And right now he's setting himself up for a good opportunity as he stretched the gap out to 1 second over Savretic.
Got a pass for 3rd place down into turn 5. Roland Yola is going on the inside of McGarvey. McGarvey, though, is hard pressed, though, as they go up towards under the Corvette bridge. Roman Yola still holding on to the inside, side by side, as they head down towards turn 7. McGarvey still holds on.
Yep, as the track switches back, he holds him off. Go ahead, Bill.
If Roman Yola feels he's got a good car, he's the kind of driver that's not scared to show you. He likes to race when he feels good.
Right now, he feels he's in a hurry. You can see that he's starting to lose a gap up to Ellis. So I kind of don't blame Roman Yolo for poking and prodding, seeing if he can get through, because he doesn't want to lose both Ooms and Ellis, our top 2.
Yeah, Roman Yola is trying to get through the kink. They go through almost pretty much flat out through there. McGarvey still has a good run through there. Alex Ellis and Jeffrey Ooms, watching them in practice, they were separated by less than a few thousandths of a second in their qualifying and practice times for the most part. So they really are going to be fair matched for the duration of the race. So we'll have to keep an eye on this battle for the lead. Right now, though, it is still Jeffrey Ooms holding strong currently as they complete the next lap.
Really full field out here today. 44 cars have taken to the track as now we see the GTEs complete lap 1. It is going to be counted as lap 2 on our timing. That'll get a little confusing. We'll probably just default to whatever iRacing tells us. Jeffrey Ooms trying to stretch away from Ellis, but Alex is not letting that happen so far.
Oh, into the wall!
Wow! For the 3rd time this season, Ooms is seeing a good finish slip through his fingers.
Wow.
He just gets out into the grass a little bit too much.
This is very un-Ooms-like.
It is. This is just very surprising. I mean, understand sometimes a driver can make a mistake and all, but this is just seems to be happening several times this season for Ooms.
Needs a new mantra.
Yeah, really. And he did have to take a tow. He didn't think the car was good enough to get it back around, which means he's now in the pits. Stefan, can you see how bad the damage is? It looked like a rough hit.
Yeah, very rough hit to that front. I even saw the car smoking, so they took the car behind the wall and retired it pretty much immediately. So we will sadly not see Jeffrey Ooms anymore in this race.
I can report that Paul Lindsay had it off, put it in the wall. He was racing 34th overall. His day is done.
Number of GTE cars having a tough start to this race. And as we go to P5 in the GTEs, this is a battle between Darling and Huff at the moment down in the Canada corner.
Yeah, Paul Darling was able to get by Huff a little bit early on the last lap, so Huff now trying to get back on to Paul Darling. They go down to the final corner through the Bill Mitchell bend onto the Road America straightaway.
Yeah, great exit there by Paul Darling. That's going to keep him safe, for at least for now. Huff will get a little bit of the slipstream, but boy, these GTE cars, incredibly aerodynamic. So really not going to suck him in a whole lot. You can see now as they get to the braking zone, Huff hasn't gained hardly anything at all. Oh, and something happened to Mark Schindel. Oh, there was a big incident involving Kundinger and Rosenbaum,
yeah,
about 40 seconds ago into turn 5.
And then Schindel blinked away in that citrus flavor car. Rosenbaum gets loose in front first in the blue car, the purple car. Kundinger gets into it, and then Schindel is third to the scene. And something happened with him. He just left. I would say he hit the incident cap, but it couldn't be so soon.
He might have gotten stuck into the tires. We have seen that before, that the cars can get jammed in there and can't reverse out.
They get together, and here comes Schindel, and then he gets there, and then bink. Oh, he stayed on. He blinked on my car, but he stayed there on the direct.
Yeah, I think he simply got stuck in the tires, which is not what you want at the start. Here we see Sheldon Rosenbaum able to continue, but now down in 8th place. Oh, and Savretic has now had a problem. In the same corner, turn 5, just now, it was contact between himself and Benefield. We missed a pass for the lead. When did this happen? Oh, it was right when the contact happened. Savretic just had a fantastic launch down the moraine sweep. There you see the pass. Tries to brake, and unfortunately, Benefield goes a little wide, outbrakes himself, just tips him enough to turn him around.
Yeah, might have been a little bit of ghost contact as well involved on that one. So Savretic falls down. Now, an interesting battle if we can stay with it. And in fact, it's happened. Ulmer has been chasing. Oh, he's still working on it. This is a battle for P3 now. Ulmer has been all over the back of DeVries.
And now they are on traffic. Our lead LMP1's catching some of the GTE field. This is what you always want to watch, because this first time through, things are incredibly packed up with this GTE class.
We don't need to go there, but Tinsley has worked his way up now into 5th.
You know what? I almost think that Benefield has some sort of damage. You can damage the battery on these LMP1 cars, because he looks very slow in a straight line.
Yeah, Andre's gobbling him up like Pac-Man on steroids right now. He's coming.
There, as they come down the moraine sweep. It's not as dramatic as we saw on the front stretch, but he is gaining. They're going to have to slide on the inside of this GTE traffic. Nice and easy through, so no opportunity this time, but now they've got Hunter, Green, and Scott all in front of them. Oh, look at it. He gets balked into 7 as he tries to take to the line. Hunter just running his racing line. Can't really be faulted there.
Got to put the car somewhere.
Holds to the inside, lets the car of Andra through, and still traffic swings in favor of Daniel Benefield, who now stretches out to 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, Andra got crushed by that traffic. That's now DeVries is right there, and Ulmer's coming with him. In fact, look at this. DeVries has a good run. I think he's going to... Oh, my goodness! Andra really had to go around the lap car. Really pushed DeVries almost off the track.
You got to feel for these GTE cars with how quickly these LMP1s come up on them. There's very little they can do except just hold their line. That's the car of Dave Hill letting them through in the final corner as we ride on board with DeVries, still giving chase on Andra, who was moments ago looking to take the lead, is now having to fend off for that 2nd place. But I can tell you that 1.5 second gap is back down to 0.9 of a second. So whatever Andra lost, he's quickly regaining it. Going by more of the GTE cars, thankfully getting them on the straightaway. Man, it's like watching a motorcycle rider weave through thick traffic, just back and forth.
Yep. I want to talk about these drivers. They guys are making their way up. Ross Booth, Jason Lundy are both up some spots right now. Now Lundy is being chased by Carter Kundinger.
We got contact between LMP1 and Ryan Huff right out of Corvette Bridge.
Was the big cheese.
Let's take a look at this replay. Down into turn 5.
You know, it looks like Huff may got a little loose, a little squiggly in front of Omer.
He did just a tad bit coming out as they go under the bridge, down to the corner, a little bit loose, and then here comes the LMP1, sending him spinning out towards the inside barrier. Not too much damage though, so he's able to still continue on.
Still, that's going to set him back significantly. Tell you what, Tinsley's got a whole handful of drivers on him because Mike Young, who's actually making a pass right now, look at that on screen down in the end zone. No, on the contact.
Hip check.
Boy, great job by Tinsley to keep that car together. Just brought it right back on track, but he's not over yet. That's Daniel Gralty behind him also for position. Tinsley, he's on the boost button. The battery draining as he finishes the lap and gets it right back over Young.
Do you think that was the boost button, or maybe that's just Mike Young doing a little bit of sportsmanship there?
That could be. So he's coming back at him again.
Stephen McGarvey's on pit road.
And that is our GTE leader that they are going by, Alex Ellis. He really does not want to get involved in this mess. He lets him through easily.
You know, we haven't talked much about the P2s. We were there a little bit. Gerard, Smith, and McGarvey just pretty much racing in order that they qualified.
Interesting stuff there. About 2.5 seconds between Gerard and Smith for the moment.
Yep.
We saw this at Road Atlanta, I believe, that Smith or Gerard really had the legs on Smith if he wouldn't have wrecked out, or at least had an issue at some point.
Well, yeah, well, Benefield has trouble from the lead. Jeffrey Ooms has trouble from the lead. So McGarvey just sit back there, wait for something to happen to those guys in front. Look at this.
This is Lundy and the car of Kundinger. Oh, and Lundy just a little bit too far wide out of turn 1. Has to skitter through the kitty litter and give up the place as James Stacy even slipped on through.
That's a Tiny Tim tune there for those old enough to remember Tiny Tim. Skitter through the kitty litter, I believe.
I'm not going to sing at his pitch, though.
Hey, Joe knows who I'm talking about.
Yes. Of course I know who Tiny Tim is. Tell you what, Tinsley may have left Young behind a little bit here, but Young and Gralty are now starting to go at it back in the LMP1s. This is for the 6th position in that class. Heading into the first corner, Young manages to get himself a slight little bit of a gap over Gralty for now. Let's see what they can do coming out of 3. It's like about dead even as we ride on board with Gralty. One of the things that this view does give us too, Bill, is just how monstrous the headlights are on these cars. I've heard drivers complain about how hard it is to see around them.
Yeah, well, I can see them complaining in the daytime that those monstrous headlights coming nice when you're at Sebring in the nighttime.
Thankfully, we didn't run at nighttime this year in this series at Sebring. It's Young continuing to try to stay ahead of Gralty and has actually run down Tinsley yet again.
I think Young has the legs for Tinsley here. He's just waiting for the opportunity. The field is so deep here. We're talking about Tinsley, Young, and Gralty racing for 5th. I mean, if you're a fan of this series, you got to shake your head.
Especially with not just Tinsley, but Gralty too was really coming on strong last season. And the GTEs, we've got a bit of a battle down for 4th. Taylor, we haven't really talked to you in a bit. It cooled down there, but now it seems like it's starting to come back together a little.
It is. We got a couple of new characters up towards the front now after Stephen McGarvey and Jeffrey Ooms had some issues. We now bring in Leif Peterson and Dean Mole as they're now battling it out for P3. Romagnola had a little bit of an off, but is working his way back to recover. He's now in P5. Down into Canada corner, Mole looks to the inside, not close enough to make a pass. Peterson cuts the course just a tad bit, but still able to recover. Heading up now through the final corners of the chicane into the Bill Mitchell bend and into turn 14. Mole gets a little bit off, but really good racing right now between these two. Alex Ellis, though, has just been pulling away lap after lap. Paul Darling, though, is looking to close in whenever Alex, if he makes a mistake.
Now, we've had a car into the pits, but it looks like he's called it quits for the night. You noticed some damage on the car of Kevin O'Keefe, who came in to see you, Stefan?
Yes, sir. He picked it up quite early on lap 8, actually, into turn 1, where Sean Rees braked a bit too much than he anticipated, running into his rear, and then Chris Epens coming up to him, having nowhere to go, side-swiping Mr. O'Keefe, giving him a lot of damage, and he sadly had to retire his car.
Down in the LMP2s, things starting to come together between Booth and Kundinger. We watched Kundinger take a spot before. I think
this is a nice battle. The guys out in front have separated themselves, McGarvey, Smith, and Gerard. But this is Booth with Kundinger coming, and Kundinger's only got about a second, because right behind him are James Stacy and Jason Lundy. So a nice 4-car battle here for 12th overall, 4th in class.
So we've got another car in the pits. We'll go to that in a moment as we continue to watch this battle here between Kundinger, and fastest lap of the race just went to Dennis Savretic. Interesting. He may have had an issue, but he's trying to come back. He's worked his way back up to 7th. It sounds like we got a battle for 6th down in GTE.
Yeah, Jimbo Pfeiffer and Kevin Santana bring in Dave Hill also. Real good battle between these three as Kevin Santana went on the inside going down into turn 5, was able to make the pass, and now is in the 6th place position. Real tight battle between these three as they come out of the Canada corner.
Yeah, these guys are well familiar with one another. Hill, Pfeiffer, and Santana have run in this series for quite a while now. So they should be pretty comfortable competing with one another as they come up the hill. You can see Santana a little bit farther ahead, but Jimbo Pfeiffer in that Porsche is gaining bit by bit on the Ferrari.
Let's see if he looks to the inside before we get into turn 1. He's going to stay in that slipstream. Nice smooth transition through turn 1. No problems as they go down towards the Briggs Stratton Bridge, down into turn 2 and turn 3. Not close enough. Dave Hill, though, is looking now. Down through turn 3. No problem at all. So really tight racing between these three. And this is also bringing in Scott Corbin now, but it looks like our LMP2 leaders are coming through the GTE field now.
For the second time already, despite the lap length, as we see them just catching the back end with Jimbo Pfeiffer stuck in a sandwich between Hill and Santana. They climb up towards turn 6, the corner that's oh so tough to find that apex with that blind entry, but still a stalemate between these three. Let's see if the traffic comes into play between them. And it looks like as we go to check on the battle for P3 here in the GTEs, real quick, we're going to bring in Steph, who's caught a bit of action with Young, who I think is now retired. Yep. What's going on?
Yeah, we're not sure if he's gonna retire yet, but the kink got its next victim with him sideswiping the wall because he took too much curb into the kink.
Sad to see that. It's always so tough as we ride on board with Dean Mole currently. Looking at Leif Peterson up ahead. That Porsche trying to make itself as wide as possible. Look how close he is coming onto the main straight.
Yeah, down the main straightaway they go. They were a little bit closer before they got into Canada corner, but let's utilize the draft. Dean Mole is going to do that as they head down the front straightaway. Noticing up ahead also, Paul Darling is closing in as Dean Mole looks to the inside, down into turn 1. Not close enough to make the pass. Leif Peterson still holds on down towards the Briggs Stratton Bridge, down to turn 2 and turn 3. As now the LMP2 leaders are coming through. That gal breaks up the battle between these two drivers, but it's a really good battle now as we're looking at the lap times between Paul Darling and Alex Ellis. Something happened with Ellis to where he's about 4 seconds slower that last lap between Darling and Ellis, so the battle for the lead is heating up.
Had a bit of action potentially for a moment between Benefield and De Vries. Andre has managed to get by Benefield and is taken off by about a second. De Vries now on the attack to see if he can get himself into second. Look at the braking that he can carry into the corner, but it's a little too deep. They've got a little bit of traffic that's going to plug him up.
Work around that is Dale Green.
Boy, Benefield, I swear that Benefield's got to have some kind of issue because his pace at the start just does not seem to be there anymore. Oh! It has to take avoiding action. Who was that? That was Scott.
Samuel Scott.
Oof, he got a bit of a glancing blow. That does hand it over to Jason De Vries. And, oh, he was off again.
Yep.
He had to have taken some damage because that car got all kinds of loose.
It got right in front of De Vries as De Vries makes the pass. So here you can see Scott gets loose. Now, they were in a pinata full of beasts. Scott gets them. Now going up to Benefield if we can, who's way up there ahead, and we can see right there Benefield goes off into the sand. And now here comes, and there's De Vries was behind him. De Vries gets by.
Well, I hope you're hungry because the big cheese has now moved onto the podium. John Ulmer now in third, although not by a whole lot. Benefield's trying to come back at him. He's only got about half a second up to him.
And that moves Savretic up another spot, who might be the fastest car out on the track right now of anybody. He's moved up now into, I guess that would be 7th overall.
Well, that incident didn't have an effect on Savretic. I think he was 7th last time we looked, actually. There was one of our top drivers, our front row sitter, who has unfortunately slipped backwards due to a bit of car contact.
Right. I'm not even sure if he had car contact on that initial on the early incident, but he's coming up on the back of Braulty pretty darn soon. He's got Corbin and Schindel to get around.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that Braulty will be pretty easy pickings. Now, while the passing seems to be relatively doable in these top classes, down to the GTEs, it seems like it's been very difficult to make overtakes. Taylor, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
It just must be certain parts of the track. Some drivers might not be thinking about making those right passes due to the fact now that we're in this traffic with the LMP 1s and 2s, or just they could be trying to bide their time as best they can, not wanting to put too much pressure right now since it's still early in the race. We're only now a little close to an hour or a little over 30 minutes into the race. So, but right now it's surprising, not a whole lot of passing going on. The field has kind of spread out. The only major battle right now is between Dean Moll and Leif Peterson for P3.
And it is getting to be close to the first pit window here. We should see some drivers duck in. Ooh, 3 wide up the main straight. Again, this is Dean Moll and Leif Peterson, with Moll following as we ride on board with him. More traffic slicing through. Oh, and he just gets on the apex there of Leif Peterson. Going to offer an opportunity, but with another of the LMP2s going to the inside. That was Carter Kundinger. Denies a chance for Moll.
Yeah, they're coming at all different speeds. LMP1s are coming through, LMP2s are coming through. It's rough.
3 wide now.
Getting a little close there to Peterson. Going to be another opportunity. Peterson knows it. He's holding to the inside, down into turn 5. They've got another one, Jason Lundy, who thankfully brakes and waits patiently for these guys to sort it out before he tries to stick his nose in. And unfortunately, Dean going to be pushed wide through turn 6. That's going to lose him some time, but you can't say that Moll isn't digging to try and get up there and get that spot away.
You know, with this lap traffic going on, this between the two front runners of Moll and Peterson, this is bringing in Roman Yola now. So Roman Yola's been closing in bit by bit due to the fact that these second or third and fourth are having to give way for these LMP cars. So we might see another driver coming into the battle for third.
LMP1s are seeing Daniel Benefield working on Daniel Gralty. Remember, Benefield had those offs and that contact. Might be dealing with a slightly damaged car, but he's brought it back in within touching distance of the number 47. Let's see if it can crack the top 5.
I know we're looking at Benefield, but the guy you gotta watch is Sevredic back there. He's coming. He's the guy who's hungry. Sevredic with a great run. Not gonna get there, but he is there.
As we jump off board, just ran out of straightaway. I think this is a matter of time. Let's see if Dennis maybe gets himself a launch down the moraine sweep.
Coming into 5, a little farther back. Here he comes. And I'll be surprised if Benefield forces now. Boy, it's done and done. Holy moly! Sweet sassy molassy. What a pass from Dennis Sevredic.
Made him look like he was standing still. And he doesn't have that far to get up to Gralty now. It's just about a second. I think we could see Sevredic getting into the top 5 here before we hit the 1/3 mark.
Yeah,
Actually, take that back. We just hit the 1/3 mark. Never mind.
And that 1/3 mark comes a little bit early, if that makes sense, with the long first lap that we had.
It comes exactly when it's meant to be, Bill.
Okay.
He works by the 3rd place driver, Scott McGarvey, and those LMP2s. Scott still not in a position to win quite yet down in that class. He's been led by quite a bit at almost 9 seconds up to Jason Girard and 6 whole seconds up to 2nd place, Billy Smith.
At least there's as these guys come through, as we're looking at Sevredic, maybe we get a little love as they work through the LMP2 guys. We haven't talked much about them. They'll be coming up on Billy Smith and Girard, who are just racing about 4 seconds apart.
I have to expect that we'll start to see some pit stops because hitting that exactly 1/3 mark and it being a 2-stop race, there's got to be some drivers that will go for that even split strategy.
I wonder.
Paul Darling in the wall off the last corner of turn 14.
Oh, no.
He's able to keep going, but that drops him back.
And this is the 2nd time we've seen a very talented driver lose it under power off of a corner. This is saying to me, Taylor, maybe everybody running ultra low downforce on these things?
Most likely they are, and it just seems like some of these drivers are going a little bit too off the curbing and getting into the grass, which causes the car to get real loose. That happens quite a lot when you go off these curbings, no matter what track you're at, especially here at Road America. Just getting into that grass with the tires a little bit too much, and you're going to send your car spinning.
Well, he continues on, but now down in 5th position. I tell you what, you were talking about Romagnolo catching up to Mole.
Christopher Sherburne got together, and it involved Daniel Benefield.
Oh, and he's on his lid. In the kink, I can already tell you that this was a high-speed incident.
Maybe not the best place to make that move. He goes to the inside of Sherburne. I think caught Christopher by surprise.
Wow. My goodness. Benefield goes for a tumble. Another bad result for the Aussie. This, as we ride on board with DeVries, our 2nd place driver, who's overtaken both Gralty and Tinsey, is going to mean one less fast driver for them to worry about. Meanwhile, sounds like we've got some drivers who are taking scheduled stops. Let's go to Stefan and see what's going on down in the pits.
John Ulmer just getting out of pit lane, taking the very first scheduled pit stop of his class and in the race in general. Meanwhile, we also have Alan Hessebeck, who took his car behind the wall.
So Cy Andra now is our new leader in the LMP1s.
Out of Canada corner, though, Leif Peterson made a mistake, causing Roman Yola and Dean Mull to move on up inside the podium now. So give Dean Mull 2nd place, Roman Yola 3rd. And Roman Yola, though, is wanting more as they go down into turn 3. Not close enough to make the pass, but just a small mistake by Mull will give Roman Yola that P2 spot. As Leif Peterson, though, dropped back a little bit. But Paul Darling, though, working his way even after that spin and a little bit of contact. Paul Darling going to try to work his way back up. He's closing in on Leif Peterson. As Ryan Huff is spun out at a Canada corner.
Whoa, Roman Yolo goes in way too deep. He's all the way off course. He might actually lose 2 more positions. There goes Peterson. Here comes Darling. He's got the inside into turn 6, and he's got it done. Costly error from Roman Yolo. And as that was happening, no surprises here, but Benefield has decided to retire the car. I wouldn't think there's really much left of the thing after that incident.
And here comes all of the LMP1 guys pitted. Tinsley's in, Savretic, Gracia.
Steph is no longer lonely. Look at how many are in. It looks like everybody's got to take the same strategy here.
Yes, everybody's pitting. Savretic missed his pit stall by a few meters. Actually, they're sliding way over his pit lane. Pit stop sign. And we're away with that. I'm sorry. Tinsey is off again. Savretic now also off. Out of the pit speed limiter, and Grolty still standing there, taking on the tires, while Brandon Gurashi is driving off, and now Grolty also driving off. That is this pit cycle done.
And I do believe that Savretic cost himself a position with that error in the pits. It was about 3 seconds longer cone to cone between himself and Tinsey. That moves the number 1 into 6th position, Bill.
It's Andra and DeVries are 1-2 of the cars who have pitted. Lionel Duprat and Mark Wilson, they're going to go around one more time. They're going to get credited with leading the lap. Well, Lionel Duprat is at least.
So while all of the LMP1 seem to be on a very similar strategy, doesn't seem to be the case right now with the LMP2s and the GTEs. I have to wonder, though, has Ulmer maybe botched his fuel strategy? Meanwhile, P3 and the GTEs, there's close. Leif Peterson gets shoved out of the way by Paul Darling.
Yep, he overshot his corner. That gave Paul Darling the chance to look to the inside and make the pass. Now Roman Yolo gets the chance to get back on the inside out of turn 5. So as it goes, actually turn 6 and into turn 7, Leif Peterson made a small mistake. So move now Paul Darling into 3rd place, Roman Yolo into 4th.
Wow. While Ellis is out on a Sunday drive, everybody else is fighting for scraps. Mole, Darling, Roman Yolo, Peterson in a fierce battle here to determine the last spots on the podium.
And Stefan, LMP2's coming in, huh?
Yes, the LMP2 leader, Jason Gerard, is in pit lane, accompanied by 3 LMP1 cars, which are the last LMP1 cars to stop right now, if I remember correctly the numbers, as Jason Gerard is pulling away and off the pit limiter.
I think McGarvey has stayed out, so he's going around one more time. He's going to get credited with leading. He needs to come in for the LMP2s. Go ahead, Taylor.
You know, with these top drivers battling it out in the top 5, this is bringing in Jimbo Pfeiffer and Dave Hill. So pretty soon, instead of just 3 or 4 cars battling it out for the 3rd position, we're going to have at least 6 to 7 cars coming into the battle for this position before pit stops start rolling in. So looking forward to the battle between these guys. Really close battle between the top 3.
Yeah, and Taylor, I need to stay in my lane, but with that long first lap, could it be a 1-stop for the GT3s, maybe?
It's going to be very close. We may see some drivers try to stretch to a 1-stop, but really, to be safe, it would be very smart to do a 2-stop race.
Yeah,
Let me correct myself. GTEs, by the way, had my 3 dyslexia there.
Throw back a little bit.
They would have to go, I would think, to 45 minutes to go. Actually, a little bit farther than that, since they did start a little late. So I'm not thinking that we'll see these guys be able to 1-stop this thing. So, as Scott McGarvey's in here, the temporary leader in our LMP2 class. That's going to hand it back over to Gerard momentarily.
Yes, McGarvey is in, but be very careful. If Gerard got a bad out lap or McGarvey got a good in lap, we might see a lead change, as they were just a few seconds between.
Going to take a look at Gerard here. He's coming off the final corner. That's an LMP1 going by. That's Lionel Duprat. Saw Duprat in a great battle at Road Atlanta last week. This week, he's been a little bit anonymous. So coming off, looks like McGarvey is not going to be able to jump. Gerard, what about Lundy? Lundy's in behind him.
I think it's going to be Billy Smith that he's going to be able to get, maybe. Billy Smith was in second.
You're right. He's well ahead of Billy Smith. Wow.
I believe it might be a take of who takes tires when. I think Smith may have taken tires that time. The rest of them didn't.
This is true. We haven't really talked a whole lot about that. Tires not as big of a concern at a track like this with the long straights and not many fast corners.
Although when I look at the time in the box, Smith was about, was that magic number, 15 seconds longer than everybody else. Usually 15 seconds doesn't mean tires. It means speeding penalty.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we heard Stefan talk about the tricky entry. That crest could have caught him out as well. Meanwhile, in 8th place, as we ride on board with Scott Corbin, Kevin Santana within his sights. Santana, of course, fighting for the AM Championship. You saw in the graphic, tied for second right now.
Yeah, Scott Corbin has been closing in bit by bit after Kevin Santana had a strong run a little bit earlier on in the race, but then just started falling back, so maybe pushing the car a little bit too much. Now he's just taking his time, but this is still reeling in Scott Corbin as they go down into the hairpin, turn 5. Nice move through the turn 5, nice smooth transition up towards the Corvette bridge into turn 6. Still not close enough for Scott Corbin to make the move as they head towards turn 7, Joe.
Yep, just stalking him for now, trying to see if he can get an opportunity. But even though he's not within striking distance, I'm sure he's making Kevin a little bit nervous with how he's maintaining that gap, working their way through the carousel. Now, I think we have Pence in, but has he been in for a long time, actually?
Yes, he has been in for quite some long time as he pulls away. So he might have gotten some damage repair there too with his pit stop.
I think it was just one of the last cars. He was racing at the back end of the LMP2s.
Yeah, he is the last of the LMP2s still running at this point. And in fact, we've seen a fair amount of attrition. I did not expect that this race. I believe we've got about 36 drivers left, something like that. Man, considering 44 started this thing. So, as we watch that Mercedes liveried number 73 of Chris Pence work his way around after the pit stops are done for the GTEs, we'll try and run through the top 5 for each of the class. You know, I thought that we weren't going to go halfway, but wow.
You doubted your co-commentator here. I got the clipboard in front of me. I think we're going one more lap. This all depends if Ellis goes around again. I think this is Ellis.
I think it's marginal because we've seen a few drivers come in. Meanwhile, we've got 4th place. I believe this is in the GTEs up for grabs. Yes, this is Peterson and Hill. So as we watch them work their way around again for 4th place, Peterson has actually dropped back from Romagnolo, so he's not fighting as hard for the podium for now. He's going to want to have to hustle if he hopes to spray some champagne. And we are starting to see some drivers come into the pit lane from the GTE. Stefan, how much time do we have left?
I think 1 or 2 more laps and we will see the rest of the GTEs coming in to the pits. So I don't think it will be too much longer.
Ellis is heading to the final corner right now. If he stays out, he's going to one-stop it. This is it right here.
Which would be impressive considering the pace that he's shown over the rest of the field, and he stays out. Look at that.
Boom, boom, boom.
Darling looks like he's coming in. Darling is pitting. So even though he's slower in pace, he's not as good with the right foot. Romagnolo follows him. Peterson follows him. Wow. Oh, and Dave Hill almost got into the back of Peterson under the pits, but manages not to make contact.
Seems like everyone except for Ellis and Santana are going to be pitting, and then it looks like another driver also decided to stay out. That was Dale Green. So a couple of drivers staying out, but Dale Green and Santana are couple of laps down, but moves Santana into second place in class.
And again, for our viewers thinking that this is close enough to halfway, the drivers have not used as much fuel as they normally would because the pace lap sucked up about 4 minutes at the start. So they actually have to make it to about 43 minutes left to go. Wow, just a plethora of cars coming back out. You can see them trying to get to the pit exit. It's going to be awful tight. Look at that, Roman Yolo really on the rear of the car of Dave Hill.
But someone was talking about it in our pre-race show. Sometimes doing a one less stop not that important, but here at Road America, if you can go one less stop, because this pit lane is so long, pit stops take forever, you can really nurse the car because you'll have a huge interval not making that extra stop.
Ellis is now coming out of Canada corner. So if he goes in this time, it'll still be pretty tight for him. And he'd be the only one, I believe, who should be able to one stop. If he can go one more lap, then he will for sure have it, but he's not. He's coming in. 44 minutes, this is really, really tight.
But it can be 44 minutes of just relaxed driving. He can nurse it for 44 minutes because he has such a big lead.
It's just about a minute from cone to cone for these drivers.
You'll see him lose the lead. He'll give it up because everyone has to come in again. The guys he's racing can race full song. Geese is going to relax. It's the tortoise and the hare, baby.
So the gap that we need to watch is if Ellis is within a minute of the cars ahead. That'll put him out about with them, but he'll be saving fuel. So he needs to be about a minute and then some, actually.
Well, here comes Paul Darling now. He's coming into the final corner, turn 14. Here also Roman Yolo. So here comes the entire field that came down pit road last lap. Let's see where Ellis is. Is he still on pit road? No, he's coming off pit road right now, out of pit exit. Let's see what happens.
Darling up the straight, but he is well clear. It's about where they left off, I want to say. As the timing resets itself, it's about 6 seconds between them.
Really good pit strategy call for the team of Alex Ellis. They really are trying to put their numbers down to make sure they get him out in front of the rest of the field. So really good pit stop strategy for the team.
Would not be the worst case scenario for him to actually, for Darling to get around him and let him save a little bit more that way.
I also see Lionel Duprat in the pits, and for a long time, I can't quite see what the damage is, so we'll send Stefan down the lane to see if he can figure out what his car looks like at the moment. Most of the drivers through those pit stops have spread out slightly. Closest battle on track that I'm seeing is for 9th in the LMP2s. That's Pence and Schindel. Here we see them heading down the Moraine sweep. The yellow machine in back is Schindel. The gray car in front is Chris Pence. And I think we're going to see a position change as he sends it up the inside. Can he get it off the corner, taking all the way off to the grass? It looks like Pence has no answer. With that done, let's go through the rundown of the top 5 here of each class, starting with our LMP1. Cy Andra currently leads the way. He's yet to get a win this season. Let's see if this one can finally break his duck. Jason DeVries, he'd like a second win in a row. He's currently sitting in second at only 2.2 seconds back. It's not impossible. And then how about the big cheese? John Ulmer currently working his way, in a scary situation, going 3 wide, coming out of the carousel, but he survives to carry 3rd place in that top class. Robert Tinsey, we usually expect him to climb up the order in the race, and he's only done slightly, so he's up to 4th. He's got a ways to go. Yeah. And Dennis Savratic is coming up behind him, rounding out our top 5. Let's head to the LMP2s.
I wish I had a good story for you here, but I don't. Jason Gerard's been wire to wire. Most exciting thing that happened was Billy Smith had a speeding penalty that let Scott McGarvey move into 2nd. Smith now races in 3rd. And wait a minute, no. Let's see, is that Ross Booth? What happened to Smith? Billy Smith.
We had a big incident. Mole involved in this, I think. And Billy Smith. Oh, no. What happened here?
Here it is, right. Oh, my goodness. It was Leif Peterson involved in this one. Jimbo Pfeiffer.
Looks like in Canada Corner.
Just happened as we were going through the rundown.
Yep. Looks like Peterson was looking to make a move on Pfeiffer. He got tipped because he didn't see that that Billy Smith was coming. Yeah, you see it right there.
Great angle. He forgot to check his mirrors, and Billy Smith has snuck up behind him.
What an awful mess. Taking out a number of top drivers in multiple classes.
So as we continue our rundown, I was about to say that Billy Smith was in third, but obviously not. That means Ross Booth is third in the LMP2s. He's got about 5 seconds on Carter Cundinger. Those guys have been chasing each other the whole time. And that moves Jason Lundy now up into fifth. Taylor?
Currently, right now, it is Alex Ellis in a league of his own, pulling away from the rest of the field in GTE, being very smart, very clean with his car. But Paul Darling, though, is closing in bit by bit. At the last lap, he was closing in on him. Next up is going to be Giuliano Romagnola, teammate to Alex Ellis, and they go down the Road America front straight. Romagnola ahead of the race, but is still able to recover. Right now, Dave Hill is going to be in the 4th position in class in that Ford GT. It's good to see the Fords up towards the front in class in the GTE cars. And then rounding out your top 5 is going to be Dean Mull. Dean Mull had that scary incident early in the Canada Corner, but it looks like he's able to get away a little bit unscathed at the moment. So that is your top 5 in GTE.
While Taylor was going down the GTE top 5, well, poor Robert Tinsley had it off in the carousel, and that allowed Dennis Savretic to take 4th easily. Now it's going to be a little bit harder going as he climbs up the order. It's 6 seconds to John Ulmer, but you can see on the clock, 38 minutes left to go. I think the number 9 has enough time to try and get up there and see if you can peel it away from the big cheese. So, seeing some drama happening, not too unusual here in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge. You tend to see big developments with lap traffic coming into play, and already have today. It's like 7th in the GTEs might get a little bit hot. This is Corbin and Santana. We were watching them a little bit earlier in the race. Well, that's the car of Scott Corbin in the light blue and gray. And that's Santana and the green and black trying to chase him.
Those two have been at it pretty much all race side by side and battling nose to tail. It's really good to see Scott Corbin have a good run tonight.
Can we get a replay on Dennis Savretic right as we're speaking? He just got into the back of Dave Hill. Man, he kept the car going straight. Now, Savretic, remember, was behind Tinsley when we were doing our countdown. He got around him. This one was scary. I really thought he was going in the wall.
Yeah, this is a huge punt to the back. You're going to see it just out of Canada Corner here as we ride on board. You'll get an idea of the violent force this Porsche put on the Ford.
That's going to slow Savretic down. That LMP1 car is not going to enjoy that.
Well, let's as we come back live, let's get a closer camera angle, see what kind of damage that gave him.
Well, I'm looking at it. It looks good.
Did he luck out, maybe? I mean, they do make these LMP1 cars hardy since they have to run 24 hours in some races. I think he lucked out.
But what's interesting, though, Tinsley's by him. So maybe that's the best indication, is that he's lost that position to Tinsley.
Oh, when did this happen? Paul Darling, you know what? We have our best indication that Alex Ellis is saving fuel. Darling cut what was a 6-second lead down to about half a second here.
Yeah, Paul Darling has been closing in lap after lap, pretty much being a second faster than Ellis that last time by. So I'm pretty sure believe that Ellis has been saving fuel.
I don't think you need to be a detective to figure this one out. I think Alex Ellis is trying to stretch this thing to the end. But as we said, he doesn't need to worry about how far these guys get ahead of him until they start to get about a minute and 15, as that was Servetic. Oh, and Servetic a little bit off there. Boy, that would open the eyes of Alex Ellis for a moment.
Yep.
Oh, and he's coming in for repairs.
Yep.
I wonder if this is too early, though. Remember how many... This could ruin the race for Dennis.
Dennis, couldn't you afford to just limp that car around maybe one more lap? Get you in the window. Maybe he knows what he's doing here. You know, by the time he gets to the pit box, maybe he'll be in his window.
And maybe the repairs are going to take so long.
Yeah.
At least he's banking on the repairs taking so long that he thinks he can make it to the end. Still doesn't help, though, because that could put him down a few laps.
There we go, battle for the lead now between Darling and Ellis. Darling looks to the outside into turn 5. Ellis still is able to hold strong to go up towards the Corvette bridge. Ellis still holding on in the inside. Darling looking to the outside through turn 6 down into 7. This gives Ellis the inside line again. Real tight battle, but here comes the LMP2 of Mark Schendel. They head down the hurry downs into turn 8.
Yeah, I think Alex is thinking, even if I'm saving fuel, I'm going to make you work for this. The more I can hold you up, the better that is for me, so that I can make this strategy work. And he actually pulls away a little bit here in the carousel.
And now here comes Alex's teammate, Roman Yola. This is going to give Paul Darling now a little bit something to focus more on. He's got to now worry about what's going up behind him through the kink. Roman Yola's trying to close in as they head to Canada Corner. Paul Darling just trying to hold the inside to make sure, giving Roman Yola the chance to pass on the outside. Not close enough to make the move. He looks to the inside. Roman Yola close. Ooh, had a brake check a little bit as we have a car in the wall out of Canada Corner.
That's Schendel. Schendel lost it coming off of the curbing. This is another case of goosing it just too hard, and poor Mark has a spin that unfortunately is going to take him out of the race. And to confirm that there was damage on Servetic, let's go to Steph. I think you caught something while he was taking his stop.
Yes, they were changing his nose cone. Very quick stop for him, though, so think he has to do at least a splash and dash at the end here.
Oof, that will set him back quite a ways. Good news, though, for Robert Tinsey, who gets promoted now to 4th by that. John Ulmer still in 3rd, ahead of him, a whole 11 seconds up. Those two longtime rivals in this series, but haven't really been racing each other a whole lot this season.
Nope, the racing gods haven't put them together, but they're having a good result here. Been a long time since John's had a nice one. This 3rd place will help his team.
Alex Ellis is getting run down once again by Paul Darling. Taylor, he's going to have a second go. What did he learn from the first time?
Well, right now he's being a little bit more patient as they head down into the carousel. Roman Yola looking in as well, but still we have a Mark Wilson coming in on the outside. This now gives the opportunity to see what happens.
Again, Ellis, one of the drivers who has not had a win yet this season. He's probably getting hungry at this point, wanting to put a notch on his belt and see if he can take a trophy home today. Schendel, who I thought his race was over, comes through for a second time.
Paul Darling hard on the brakes into Canada Corner, gets right on the bumper of Ellis, heading down towards turn 13 in the Mark Mitchell bend into 14. Gotta be careful through there. Sometimes don't want to go off the course. That'll send you into the grass very quickly. Out of turn 14 down the Road America straight. Now it's time to utilize the draft to get a good pull close to side by side to make a pass toward the inside. Let's see what Paul Darling does. Alex makes a defensive move to hold him, make a pass on the outside. Side by side now as they go down the front straightaway. Paul Darling just power moves to takes the lead. Of course, Ellis is also trying to save a little fuel. So very good pass between Darling and Ellis. Very close battle. Roman Yola still looking on, though, waiting to see who will make the first mistake.
All right, so as Darling now has his car up, he's really got to make hay because we don't think he can get to the end with an extra stop needed, whereas we think Ellis might be able to. Also, a bit of a note, Billy Smith apparently did not have a speeding penalty. That was not the reason why he took extra time. He took tires at his pit stop.
Billy wants to be in good with the police. Doesn't want to get any blemishes on his driving record there. So, okay.
Thanks to Billy for slipping us a note there
Billy.
In the background. Said he was just trying something different to see if he could beat Jason on an alternate strategy, which I kind of don't blame him. Gerard's pretty darn fast. So we continue to watch. Ellis has not dropped off very quickly. He's holding on to the back of Darling, which is exactly what Paul does not want.
I was looking at Ellis's lap time, and as soon as Darling got there, Alex picked it up just a bit, about a half second, but he was definitely slower until then. I think it's the racer in him because you can't just let him get away.
Well, here's a question, Bill. Now that he's gone by, does he use the slipstream to maybe save some fuel?
Yeah, that could be too. I'm not sure if he's going to save as much fuel in the slipstream if he would be just lifting.
Yeah. Taylor, thoughts on that? You are a GTE expert.
Yes, that would be a very smart move for Alex Ellis to do. He's going to utilize that draft down the straightaways as best he can, try to conserve as much fuel as he can. As they go down the straightaway, Paul Darling is using that defensive move to make sure that Ellis has to pass on the outside down into turn 1. Roman Yolo is also closing in on this battle. Darling got in the grass a little bit too much, was able to save it compared to his last time when he went through there. Into turn 3, still nose to tail for the top 3. I gotta say, this has been a really good battle between these. Best battle I've seen in the past 3 rounds we've already had. So I'm looking forward to the finish.
And something's happening with the LMP1. Cy Andra he disappeared for a long time on my screen, and now it's down to about a second between himself and DeVries.
Yeah, he's been blinking for a while, and oh no, he's in and out.
Speaking of in and out, Robert Tinsey has hit the pits. Steph looks like I think he should be able to make it from here, judging by the time.
Yes, he should be able to do it, which confirms my guess that Savatage will have to do a splash and dash at the end for about 2 laps worth of fuel. Perfect in for Tinsey, as he is on the checks, waiting for fuel to go in and tires to be changed.
Slips down the order bit by bit. Guaracia goes by. Wilson goes by. And Cervetic is too far back before Tinsey is down and out. There he goes. Off and to continue his race to try and salvage something of what looks like not to be his strongest track here.
Joe, I think we should talk about how the rule change has a major effect. There used to be for years, for season after season, a fast repair in this. They took it away. And look how that plays into what Cervetic had to do. He had to actually, instead of coming in and getting a free car, he had to actually get it fixed.
DeVries is in, and is Andre in too? No, he's not. So only DeVries comes in. Andre is able to continue for another lap. Ulmer, no surprise here, with his early stop, he is in from third.
I think Andre's scared if he comes into pit lane, he might blink away.
De Vries was really lucky here when he got into pits because he missed the button for his pit limiter and went about 20 kilometers too fast at the beginning of the pit lane. So we will have to see if he has a penalty from that or not. I also have to correct on Tinsey, he did not take tires.
All right, so as DeVries is in and out, I think DeVries got away without a speeding penalty.
Also, no tires for him.
All right. Ulmer is in and out. Just a couple seconds longer, though. Interesting.
About 4 seconds longer than DeVries.
I'm seeing 2 on mine. Either way, it's that is a chunk of time when you're running down the front stretch.
My stopwatch guy is a little sloppy. He stayed out late last night. Come on.
And this car behind him is not for position. That is Lionel Duprat, multiple laps down. Meanwhile, and the GTEs taking a look at the lead. I'm pretty certain at this point Ellis is trying to save some fuel in that slipstream.
Oh yes, he is. He's been all over the back bumper of Paul Darling for this whole lap for the most part. As they go out of 14 down the straightaway, Ellis right on the bumper of Paul Darling. Let's see what happens as they go down the straightaway. Will he stay in that slipstream or will he decide to make the pass? I don't think he's going to make that pass right at this moment. I think he's going to wait for a little bit longer. Down the straightaway they go. Roman Yola pulled away a little, backed off a little bit on his speed right at the moment. Into turn 1. Darling still holding it on the line as Ellis holds the curve a little bit more tighter through the turn 1, down under the Briggs Stratton Bridge to turn 3.
And we've got to go back to our pit reporter. Significant development because our leader is in.
Yes, he is in as De Vries makes his way through last turn. So that should be quite close between those two. Sayandra getting away, clean get away from him. Out of the pit limiter as De Vries just crossed the start-finish line.
Wow, and that is very comfortable, actually. Wow, Sayandra with a 15.8 versus De Vries 18.5 stationary. Sai may be saving a little bit of fuel during that stint.
Ran longer, so I guess he needs less.
Fascinating stuff. So that sorts them out now to the top 3 being Andra, De Vries, and Ulmer, which is how they were before. But we think De Vries is going to be slotting down the order once he has to take a 3rd stop for today. We will find out soon enough. There's only 23 minutes left.
I was looking at Alex Ellis' lap times. He's picked it up quite a bit. I wonder if he's just given up the ghost here on this one-stop strategy.
I think he's still committed to it, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too. Only time will tell, though, as we're now coming down out of turn Canada corner into the Bill Mitchell bend and into turn 14. Roman Yola still has backed off quite a bit now, several car lengths back from the top 2. Ellis, though, hard into turn 14. He's going to try to get on to Paul Darling as they go down the Road America straight.
So we continue to watch this sort of battle. We're not sure that Ellis really is meaning to try anything. He's very close, though. He ducks out a little bit, but he does not try. That, to me, still says this is a fuel-saving strategy for him to try and go without an extra stop. Meanwhile, if we can duck away to the LMP2s, because we haven't looked at them in a long time.
I remember them.
Yeah, Gerard's still your leader. Let's give him a little bit of screen time. He is continuing to show his dominance in this car. Again, the only driver to take 2 wins so far this season. He's about to make it 3 out of 4 with the way things are. He's no longer challenged by Billy Smith again with him wrecking out, but the closest battle, Bill, is a little bit farther down, it looks like.
As he works around Hill, McGarvey's comfortable in 2nd, but Booth has about a 2-second lead over Kundinger. Kundinger has been trying to get him the whole race.
We saw them closer together earlier on. It looks like they haven't been able to get apart. You can see still dealing with the traffic, and that traffic will come into play all the way down to the checkered flag. A lot of times that's your best hope for an overtake.
Yep.
And sometimes it's your worst nightmare as Daniel Gralty slips through them in his LMP1, holding up Kundinger for a little bit.
And there he gets around Kevin Santana.
And
Santana having a good race. He's in that AM class down there for the GTEs. Sitting, what is he right now? He is like 7th overall or so, right? 8th overall. It's a good run from Kevin.
De Vries just took the lead away from Andra. Our overall leader, has swapped positions. There's been some debate behind the scenes on whether or not De Vries has saved enough fuel to get to the end. I would guess no if he's pushing this hard. Or is it maybe Andra trying to save fuel since he had such a short stop?
Well, remember before the pit stops, we were worried that Onder was in jeopardy because he had given up that lead. So maybe there's something going on. They're only a lap apart for pit stop.
This is what I love about the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. A lot of times you have no idea who is going to win down until that checkered flag falls.
Look at Onder's car, just will not go down the straightaway unless he's not asking it to go. He may just not be giving it the whip, but De Vries he's gone.
So watch them work their way through 7 into the hurry downs. They still have 20 minutes left. This is an endurance race again for this series at a 90-minute race today.
Joe, you remember how fast Onder's pit stop was on that last one? You were amazed how quickly it was? Maybe it was fast because he didn't take enough fuel.
That's what I said a little bit ago, that I wonder if maybe he's trying to save, but it's hard to tell because they've got two such different scenarios. You're not sure which is which, or if it's both.
Well, it's a needless save, though. It's not a save to try to do it on less stops. This is a save because he didn't put enough in when he was there.
Yeah, maybe he was trying to jump De Vries.
Well, the good news is he's got 16 seconds back to Big Cheese.
He doesn't necessarily know that De Vries needs to make an extra stop.
Right.
Either.
Well, he's watching the broadcast.
De Vries got balked by green there on screen. And the GTE 6 getting a little bit close. Scott and Pfeiffer fighting over that position.
Yeah, those two have been close together all race long. Samuel Scott has been moving his way up quietly through the field, but Jimbo Pfeiffer, he's been pretty much staying in that top 6, top 7 for the majority of the race, putting on a really good showing in that Porsche, Martini livery Porsche, as they go down out towards the kink. Samuel Scott gets a little bit loose coming out of the carousel. Let's see what Jimbo Pfeiffer can do. Not close enough to make any passes at the moment, but a really good battle between these two.
As they're going to get overtaken by a couple faster cars. That's Jason Lundy and Brandon Guaracia. Whoa, and big spin there from Jason Lundy as Samuel Scott has to go off track but doesn't lose the place because poor Jimbo Pfeiffer had to get on the binders to keep from T-boning him. Going to watch it from above. The LMP2 there, sending it way too hot into the corner, and he discovered it too late. Wow, great job by everybody. Everyone practically scrambling to keep damage from happening to any car in that situation.
Like that chopper cam view on that one. That was a good one, Director.
Oh, and Ross Booth has come in the LMP2s. He's back out now. This slots him into 4th, and Kundiger followed him in.
And they come out about the same where they were before. Maybe Carter might have lost a couple of seconds.
So as he continues on, working his way through traffic, also we can report that Rosenbaum has hit his stall to take his final stop. I think not the last of the LMP2s to pit. We're still waiting on Lundy and McGarvey. Speak of the devil, McGarvey's in.
He should be able to get in and out comfortably. He was too far behind Gerard for it really to be an issue. Too far ahead of Booth.
Even still, we've seen this from McGarvey a lot, even last season, where he rifles off consistent finish after consistent finish. He may not be getting wins, but he could be a worry to those top drivers if they have an up and down season.
Gerard goes by. And honestly, you can never be too sure in the LMP2s or any of these classics. Because sometimes some people decide not to take tires and it fools you.
Yeah, but Gerard is through and McGarvey's out. Lundy follows him in. And Booth is nowhere to be seen.
Way on the other side of the track. So Booth and Kundinger should be able to come all the way around before Lundy comes out. Lundy should cycle into 5th.
We take a look at Booth. Now, did something happen to Scott Corbin? I'm not seeing him on my screen.
It shows he's disconnected.
Oh, I see him in the trees. I'm not sure how long ago it was.
Huh, so we'll have to take a look and figure out what exactly happened to Scott. But he was in such a good fight there with Pfeiffer, and now it's gone away. Oh, and Ellis and Darling starting to go at it. Ellis maybe feels he's saved enough fuel. He's starting to go on an attack.
Yeah, he looks like he got the green light from his crew chief to make that jump now into fifth out of turn 14. Down the front straightaway, he's right on the bumper. He's going to maybe take a look to the inside. Darling going to try to take the defensive move. Ellis goes even further down on the inside, down the straightaway. Tries to power move side by side. He's at his door, going down the straightaway, still side by side. Down into turn 1. Who's going to break first? Ellis gets that tight line through turn 1. Darling still holds on strong, going down under the brakes, Stratton brakes through turn 2. Ellis not close enough to get through turn 3. Darling still holding strong. Here comes some lap traffic now up ahead of Tim McLeish. And here comes also the LMP2 cars. Giuliano Romagnolo is just still far back, just watching the excitement going on ahead of him as they head down through turn 5. Ellis looks to the outside. Right on it. I tell you what, Joe, this is quite the battle between these two.
Ooh, he is pushing him hard. It is Porsche versus Ferrari for the win here in the GTE class. And the more they fight, the more there's probably a big grin spreading across Giuliano Romagnolo's face, as he is only 1.8 back now. With 14 minutes to go, he could easily run them down.
Darling gets a little bit too loose now. Here they go into the carousel. Ellis looks to the outside.
Bobbed his way to the inside to see if he could stick his nose in, but he was covered off on the entry to that long right-hander. They're going to have an LMP2 sliding through. LMP1. That's Savretic going by.
They head down towards Canada corner. Let's see if Ellis is going to take the look to the inside.
Got a great run.
He's got a very good run. He's going to look to the outside now. Down at the Canada corner, hard onto the brakes. Darling, though, is able to hug the inside corner of Canada as they go up towards turns 12 and 13. To the Bill Mitchell bend now into 14. Paul Darling got a little bit of a gap now, but this is the time where Alex Ellis will utilize the draft down the straightaway. Road America straightaway is still a long straightaway. Plenty of time to utilize that draft to make a move for the pass. Romagnolo still not close enough at all, but just watching and waiting to see who will make that mistake. Here we go. Now he looks to the inside. Turn 1. Nope. Paul Darling shuts the door on him.
Pokes his nose in regardless, but remember earlier in the race, Darling was given a hard time by Ellis. Ellis, despite his lack of pace, due to what we believe is fuel saving, made him really work for it, covered him off multiple times, and now payback is a certain something, and Darling is feeding it right back to Ellis here at the end.
Looks to the inside now into turn 5, hard onto the brakes. Ellis is going, and he makes it stick. He gets to pass new leader, Alex Ellis.
That was aggressive but clean. Look at how he just fed him onto the curbing out of turn 5. Said, all right, you want to play hard? We can play hard.
Let's get a replay of that. That deserves a replay. That was just an excellent pass.
Calculated it perfectly, just on the binders to get him the inside, and said, no soup for you, as Alex Ellis goes back into the lead. So, now down to 11 minutes to go here. It's another LMP1 trying to go through. That is Gracia in 7th.
Darling hard onto the brakes into Canada corner, gets right on the bumper of Alex Ellis. I think Darling wants a shot at it again. He wants to top spot. He wants to get that second win of the season.
Yep, Darling looking to be the second driver of all 3 classes to be a repeat.
Into the pit road he goes, along with Romagnola. Oh, Romagnola nearly clips the grass.
There we go. not enough fuel. And as they are trundling down the pit lane, let's go to Stefan. You've been watching the numbers. You have a theory on Ellis here?
Yes, to my numbers, Ellis will be able to make it. And to my numbers, also Darling and Romagnolo had to make this splash and dash, as Darling is pulling away, same with Giuliano.
All right, so what was going to be a battle for the lead for Paul Darling now looks like it might be a battle for either second or third. Have you watched Dave Hill at all? I know he's on one stop so far, but he didn't come in that time.
Looking for him.
Nope. He's already way past. He's just going through the moraine sweeps.
So Hill inherits second for a moment. Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, Dave Hill has been really quiet for the most part, though, in that Ford GT. Not able to make a move pretty much all night, but still, it's just been able to play a good strategy call with a pit stop, kind of following what Alex has been doing all night. So if things work out well and doesn't have any mistakes, we could see Dave Hill take second place on the podium.
It's 2 laps difference between Ellis and Hill in terms of last stop. 16 laps ago for Ellis, 18 for Hill. So we take a look at Santana trying to stretch away from Pfeiffer. So what about Jason DeVries?
Well, he's got 10 seconds on Andre, so if he needs to make that extra stop, he doesn't have a big enough cushion.
Certainly doesn't. And in fact, he might not have a good enough cushion to get into the top 5 here, as looking to see how far away the drivers are. He would be passed by Andre, Ulmer, Tinsley, and Gralti if he takes an extra third stop. I know some people never like these fuel races, but frankly, I enjoy the fact that you really don't know how it's going to wind up until the very end of the race.
Let's check in on this story since things are settling down up there. Let's go to 11th overall.
Ellis just pit. And Hill has gone by. Where's Darling? Darling's coming up the front stretch. This is significant. This is for the lead, we believe, in this class. So even Ellis couldn't make it.
Ellis is rolling.
Darling's got momentum, though. He's coming up behind him. Ooh, when he gets out in time, he's got a gap, but not much of one. But from here, it is all out, foot to the floor to the end of this race.
I think Alex Ellis said, you know, I don't need to gamble. I've got a fast car. That's what my dad always told me. When you got the fastest car, don't get fancy. I think he said, I'll just race with you. I'll have a shorter pit stop because I'm getting better fuel mileage anyway. And he's out there in front now.
We still got Dave Hill. We're going to have to keep an eye on him, see if he's going to come in this lap, or is he going to even roll the dice and risk the chance maybe?
He's got about half a lap to go before he gets to the pit entry and about 15 seconds over Ellis. So if he tried to save, I don't think those 15 seconds would be enough. He would have to do some monster saving.
You got to remember, before the pit stops of our leaders, he was pretty much by himself for the majority of this race. Had a good gap behind the rest of the field and behind him. So he might have did that saving during that time period, though. So we'll have to wait and see, though, as he comes at it towards Canada Corner.
Well, right in this mix that you guys are looking at, Ross Booth is in there as well. Tinsley just went around him. Booth now has 0.3 of a second. Remember we talked about Kundinger? Carter Kundinger's coming for that final podium spot.
They got more traffic to deal with. Alex Ellis just being split by them now. Remember, he's our leader in the GTEs. He does not want to tangle with these guys right now, and he also doesn't want to lose time. Lets him through very nicely as Kundinger slips by the number 22, still within a second of Booth.
As Dave Hill does throw the white flag out, he is coming into pit road.
That's going to hand the lead back to Alex Ellis now. It is his race to lose. It is a second and a half, and to Bill's point earlier, between Darling and Ellis, it was about 2 seconds different in the pit stall. Things going to be a little bit tense for these drivers. Again, Ellis has not won yet this season. He's switched over from the prototype, which is the now LMP2 this season. to the GTEs and have proven that he is one to watch, that he is fast even in lesser downforce cars. We've been wondering about Andra and De Vries. De Vries has continued to stretch the gap. It's now up to 12 seconds. I believe it was 10 before, was it not?
Yep.
Now up to 13.
Yeah, I'm not so sure the gap to Andra is what he really cares about. This is the gap to Tinsley and Gralty if he needs to come in that one extra time.
Jason is our overall leader, so he will, at this point, determine when that checkered flag, or the white flag comes out, rather. They're running about 144 laps currently. So the ever dangerous practice of doing math on air here at GSRC, trying to figure out how many laps we have to go. We're seeing about 4 left. Can Andra get to the end? Can De Vries get to the end? Will Ulmer get himself a podium potentially here? Would this, I think this would be Ulmer's first podium?
Yep.
Or did he?
Nope. It's been a bad season 7 for him so far. First podium.
Right on board with a 902. He's known for having a few errors over the season. I kind of feel bad sometimes how often we point it out. And this one has been no exception, but worse than before, as Bill mentioned there. This would be a great time to get it turned around. 3 bad races, 3 drop races, and maybe from here we can find some pace in this LMP1.
It works better under pressure. Get that drop race insurance out of the way.
Not from what we've seen. I wouldn't say he works better under pressure when in a battle on track.
Can we go to 11th overall here real quick? This is, again, Kundinger has ran down Booth. I would really like Carter to make this pass so I could look somewhere else.
Yeah, they've been so close together for so long. I don't think I've ever seen them farther than 2 or 3 seconds apart.
And they got Tim McLeish, who could play a factor here through the carousel. Oh, look at the run that Kundinger has now.
Down through the kettle bottoms. He is right underneath that gearbox. He ducks out to the right side. That's not what Ross Booth wants, because that's going to be the apex of Canada Corner. Booth is going to have to be extremely late on the brakes, and he is not. Maybe goes for the over-under. It does not work. Kundinger finally moves himself onto the podium.
Took him 57 minutes, but he finally got the job done.
Wow. So, let's see, De Vries. When is his last chance, do or die? I'm committed to the checkered flag. I think he can go by one more time and still have a chance to pit, if I'm understanding right. And I tell you what, this is not a track, Bill, that you want to toy with fuel right down to the margin, because it is uphill all the way to the line.
Yeah, you got to get it right, or you're dead.
I have 2 to go this time by for Jason De Vries. He won last time out at Road Atlanta. We asked him what made the difference with the troubles that he experienced in the first 2 rounds. He just said it was down to learning how to stay out of trouble. He didn't today. He had a little bit of problems, had to get some repairs. He's made a stop that we think might be too early. He's going to continue on once again onto the penultimate lap now. Next time by should be white flag. Next time, if he stays out, he is absolutely committed. Talk about a nail biter. I'd love to be inside that cockpit and be able to know how much exactly he's got left. He hasn't seemed to be saving, that's for sure. He's stretched out now to 16 seconds over Cy Andra.
Yeah, I think he's feeling pretty good. He's got 1 lap on Tinsley. Tinsley's going around 2 again, so I think we're okay with all these guys.
So Now a minute left to go on the clock. There you see as it ticks down. Again, your leader in the LMP2s is Jason Girard by a very handy gap over McGarvey after Billy Smith's issues took him out of the race. And Alex Ellis, who we wondered if he was going to be able to keep his pace to the end. Well, the answer is yes, because he's now up to 3.6 over Paul Darling.
Tell you what, I've been watching the battle between Roman Yola. Roman Yola's been closing that gap on Paul Darling. So we could have a battle for P2 on this final lap.
All right, De Vries is coming around to finish the penultimate lap. Let's see if he stays out. He thinks he's got enough fuel. He's not coming in. He is staying out. Jason De Vries has made his bed. This is it. He is either going to make it to the end under his own power, or he is sputtering to the line.
You know how slow Onder was that he was losing? He is going to lose it to Ulmer. Can we go to them right now for a second? Ulmer's coming, and he's closing fast. He'll have them probably not into corner 1. He'll probably have them by the time they get to corner 5. John Ulmer's going to get second.
Oh, he is coming fast. Look at this.
Pulling over.
Up into turn 1. That says to me maybe Andra is the one who's fuel saving. Wow. Impressive stuff by John Ulmer to come back into this thing. Remember, he qualified in 6. Oh, and look at this. He's coming back at him. He's going to make him work for it. Can he get it down into the corner? Cy Andra does not want to give this one up, but he lifts yet again. Oh, but Ulmer outbreaks it. He's going to have to do it all over again. Does he have enough to try and get back into this? And meanwhile, Jason De Vries has now hit the carousel. The white flag has now been replaced by the checkered flag as Jason De Vries comes out of the kink with a handy 16-second lead over Cy Andra. Even if he does sputter from here, he might actually be able to make it to the line. So we'll go back to the battle for second in a bit. But for Jason De Vries, it's a repeat win, back-to-back for Deep Freeze, as he comes to the line and takes win number 2, this time at Road America.
Ulmer had a shot at Ander, got boxed in. Now, where is Girard in relationship to Ulmer? Girard is ahead of these guys, I think.
Yeah, he's coming through Canada corner right now. And Ellis has a whole nother lap to go around.
So Andra is going to be safe. Andra's going to get second. Ulmer's going to get third. And now we can go to Girard.
A win, a third win out of 4 for Jason Girard. How about that? Sure as fans in Japan are cheering now. Meanwhile, Alex Ellis leading the way, not by as much as we saw last time, but still 3 seconds over Paul Darling.
Yeah, but here comes Roman Yola now as they head up towards the Corvette Bridge into turn 6. Roman Yola's been closing in bit by bit, but I think it's going to be a little bit too little too late. Unless Paul Darling makes a mistake, this is going to be the finishing order by the looks of it, as Ellis goes down into turn 8 towards the carousel. Just cruising through a dominant victory pretty much all day. He had to earn it a couple of times, but for the most part has just driven away from the competition tonight. As they go through the carousel one last time towards the kink, Ellis has a good lead over the rest of the field of Paul Darling and Roman Yola. Darling able to space out a little bit from Roman Yola right now. So right now it is still Ellis down towards Canada corner for the final time. Paul Darling getting by one of the lap traffic of Tim McLeish.
And Roman Yola seems to have dropped back slightly. So Alex Ellis, this is one of the drives of the race for me. We thought maybe he was going to try and one-stop it, and I think he thought he was too. But in the end, he switched it around, said, all right, it's go time. We can't make it to the end. So up to the line, Alex Ellis is going to take the win here in the GTE class. And Darling will, in fact, take a second place. Roman Yola a third. I got a feel for John Ulmer. He had that second place within his grasp, and I would I would say that one was driver error that cost him that position. In the meantime, let's take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, but stick around because on screen we're going to have all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Road America. We just watched round 4 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. Jason DeVries took his second win of the season here, going back-to-back between Road Atlanta and Road America. I guess he just likes roads. Cy Andra did not have an answer for him. We thought that maybe fuel strategy would come into play, but Jason had enough, more than we thought he did. Cy finished behind him in second place. John Ulmer could have had that second place, but maybe just got a little too greedy on that last lap and outbraked himself. He still gets his first podium of the season. Robert Tinsey, I think this was damage limitation today. Didn't seem like he liked this track. He's qualified in 7th, and he still finished in 4th, so still not bad for Robert Tinsey. He'll at least give him some decent points. Daniel Gralty was behind him in 5th spot. In fact, it was very close, about 2 seconds between them at the line. Dennis Savretic probably ruined what could have been. He winds up in 6th, having qualified on the front row. Brandon Guarcia finishing in 7th, and Mark Wilson finishes in 8th. The last of our LMP1s running at the line.
LMP2s had 13 entrants, 9 of them finished together. Jason Gerard, wire to wire, basically. He might have lost a lap during the pit cycle. Scott McGarvey comes home in 2nd ahead of Carter Kundinger, who was chased Ross Booth for 57 minutes got the best of him at the end. Booth has to settle for fourth. Sheldon Rosenblum behind him. Jason Lundy, Sean Reese, Mark Schindel, and Chris Pence before we get down to the next class. Taylor?
Alex Ellis puts on a very strong performance here, winning in the GTE category. Followed by Paul Darling, who was so close, but yet small mistakes cost him that opportunity. Giuliano Romagnola rounds out your podium finish in the GTE class. Dave Hill in the Ford GT, a strong performance, followed by Dean Mull, rounding out your top 5. Followed by the GT AM driver Kevin Santana and Samuel Scott. They did an excellent job in their class so far. Good points day for Kevin Santana. Now followed up by Matt Owens and Jimbo Pfeiffer having some difficulties late in the race. Tim McLeish also had a difficult race, finishing 7 laps behind the leader. Dale Green and Mark Kradowski also finishing 29th and 30th overall. And then rounding out the rest of your field is going to be Leif Peterson, Shane Hunter, Scott Corbin, Kristen Sherburne, and Ryan Huff, the rest of your GTE leaders. Billy Smith comes home in the 36th position overall, followed by Daniel Benefield, James Stacy, Alan Hesback, and then Mike Young round out your top 40. Joe?
Then as we go to the cars that are DNF'd, 41st is going to be Kevin O'Keefe. Stephen McGarvey finishes behind him in 42nd. Bit of disappointing for him. Same thing with Jeffrey Ooms. Had great pace, but on lap 2 of this race, spun out on his own volition. Paul Lindsay is behind him in 44th, and then we got our did not starters, Jesse Lyon, Bradley Haley, and David Henry, for whatever reason, did not start this race. And as we get ready for our interviews, our overall winner takes his 2nd in a row. So let's pull Jason Deep Freeze DeVries into here. It might be a little bit warmer out there on track, but it's usually cold up here in Wisconsin. So seems fitting for Jason to get a win. That's number 2 for you. I think you've sussed this car out, man.
Well, a little bit of luck. I feel like I've had some good speed all 4 weeks. It's just, you got to make good decisions, and 2 weeks I didn't. So, just got to take advantage of when you have a pretty good car, and, just appreciate when these days come, because it's a lot of work to get here, and you just got to take it in and appreciate what you get when you get it.
Now, we saw you come in a little bit earlier than Andra, and we were concerned that maybe you couldn't make it to the end. Was fuel pretty safe? Because you pushed hard, it seemed like.
Yeah, fuel was plenty safe. I knew the race was going to be 50 laps, and I could have gone 51 at that point. I just saw that he was catching some slower traffic up ahead, and I didn't want to have to deal with that. And I think he may have caught one of those cars on that in lap, because he had some damage. After I passed him, he was much slower than what he was running the first few stints. So I think he got caught up with someone.
Well, this is certainly going to help you in the championship even more, taking it over your rivals. Are you a little surprised that Tinsey isn't a better fight for you in this car? Had you raced him before this season in the LMP1 cars?
Not LMP1. We had some good battles in LMP2, and then I took some time off, and he was just amazing in the car. But it's a new car, and none of us have really figured out what makes it go fast. So as each time someone learns something, everyone else tries to figure it out, and we're still developing it, and there's still a lot of room to be found. So I expect everyone else to come back up, and I expect that gap to close. This race, there were quite a few guys that were quite a bit faster in single lap pace. I was about 3rd or 4th in line, and I couldn't do anything. So I think that gap's going to close a bit, and you just got to keep pressing away, trying to find things in the car and find some more speed to stay ahead.
That's always the name of the game. That's Jason DeVries, our winner overall today. Congratulations to him. In the meantime, we have jumped down to Bill, who has caught up with our winner in the LMP2s. Jason Gerard joins us.
Absolutely. I'm hoping for Jason Bateman or Jason Alexander, maybe Jason Statham, but after Jason DeVries, I'll take Jason Gerard. Congratulations on pretty much a wire-to-wire win. Let's talk about lap traffic. Any scary moments?
No, I didn't really have too many scary moments, but looking at how many cars actually finished the race, it looked like a lot of other people did. I know my SRN Motorsports teammates early on in the going, 2 of them got hatchet jobbed by an LMP1 back-to-back, which was disappointing, and I'm pretty frustrated for him on that one. But yeah, it looked like, given how many people that finished the race, it looked like it was wild, but thankfully I didn't have any issues.
So when was the pace lap to start with figured out by the drivers. Did that happen when you guys grid, or did you know that was coming from practice?
No, we knew that once everybody gridded that there was no pace car, so that meant somebody set up the session as a standing start. So we just did what we did at Daytona, and just kind of we seem to be experts at this now. It is what it is, but hopefully we can fix that, correct that, and move forward.
Yeah, the single file start though, for you, it's spread out the field a little bit, and you had Billy Smith back there for a while. He was just pacing you. How hard were you running early on?
I was going pretty hard the first stint. I saw that he took tires on the second stint, so I knew I had to push harder still, just to on my worn tires, just to keep up with him and keep that gap pretty level during the race. But once he ran into problems, it was basically 45 minutes of me just trundling around the track, just trying not to crash the car, which, you know, I certainly appreciate races like that. It's good for the old ticker, but sometimes you gotta get that adrenaline going. And I know this is probably going to be one of the few races that I have an easy time at it, so we'll see what happens in the next race.
Well, this is your third win of the season. Throw that crazy 12th place finish out of there when drop races come in. It looks like you're on your way to the championship. Good luck. Keep it going.
All right, thanks.
Jason Girard, our winner today, 3-time winner this season.
Yep, 3 times out of 4. And driver taking his first this season is Alex Ellis. He's talking to Taylor Burris.
Here with Alex Ellis. Alex, an excellent performance. Tell me, did you think you could be able to hold him off today?
Looks like we're getting Alex's mic a little set up here as we wait for him to get the lav hooked into his race suit. This was obviously pretty tough for him, having to fend off Paul Darling for much of this race, getting overtaken once. Let's double check here. Alex, you got a copy?
Hey guys, yep, I'm here, Joe. How you doing?
Awesome. Taylor?
All right. Congratulations again, Alex, on the finish.
It might be on his end.
So we're just close to a really good finish. You had a tight battle between Paul and Giuliano. Tell us how the car feel and what your strategy was for today's race.
You guys got a copy on me?
And we do have a copy. It looks like maybe you can't hear Taylor Burris. Make sure that you've got him unmuted. But Taylor asking about the competition that you had with Paul and whether or not you felt like you could make it to the end, because you were the only one to get farther in those first stops.
Yeah, so as soon as we had that botched start, I realized that it was bringing us quite close into the fuel window, because obviously, I think you guys remember last year, Monza, I quite enjoy a good old fuel save battle. So as soon as that started, I was happy to slot into second behind Ooms, and I was just fuel saving from the start. Once I got with Darling, it was more of the same. It was only with about 20 minutes left in the race. I'm sure you guys could tell when. I realized I was about 1 lap short, so then I started pushing, and then I made the splash and dash.
We didn't know at the time, but we figured out once you pitted that you had figured it out that you couldn't make it. But obviously, one of the main drivers that we expected to be a rival for you, Ooms, wrecked out on lap 2, and that makes another 20th plus place finish for him. There are 3 drop weeks. Do you still take his threat seriously, or do you think his season is a write-off already?
No, absolutely. He's definitely going to be a threat for the whole season. I've had some turbulence to start the year too. The GTE car is very new to me, and I've just been very busy with real-world racing and whatnot. So I've barely been able to practice. Like the first time that I drove the car at this track was at 7 p.m. tonight.
Wow.
And the same thing with Road Atlanta. I jumped on for about an hour of practice, first time driving the car. So there we didn't get the setup right. I was happy getting it right here. So now I'm kind of in a recovery mode with my championship as well. So I think it just puts Jeff on the same level as me. So I think we'll both be clawing back, and fingers crossed we'll be a factor at the end.
Now, Darling was pushing you hard, and you eventually managed to come out ahead of him. Do you think that if it would have been a straight fight that you would have had him regardless, or do you think it was all down to strategy that sealed the deal today?
No, I had pace in hand for sure. I'm sure you guys could tell once I turned up the wick a little bit. I was all over him. because before that point I was lifting and coasting quite a bit. So I knew I had pace on hand with Darling. It was more Ooms that I was worried about, but as you guys saw, that challenge faded early.
Yep, indeed. Well, again, congratulations on your first win of the season. Looking forward to hopefully talking to you some more.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot. Take care, guys.
That's Alex Ellis, winner in the GTEs. We'll have to figure out what was going on there that he couldn't hear Taylor. We could hear him fine. But for some reason, Alex could not. In the meantime, we are going to close up today. And of course, we want to give a huge thank you both to the Autobahn Motorcar Group for sponsoring season number 7. They've been the sponsor every single season of the Sports Car Challenge. Sean Ulmer and all of his team of people behind the scenes who put these up. You heard Jason talking a little bit about setting these up as well, and him taking control at the start. John does not do this alone, even though he does take a lot of weight on himself. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. You can see them listed on your screen. And additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Taylor, Sean, Dougie, and of course to Stefan Schlocker, who did a fantastic job down in the pits running up and down there. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget, if you head on over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, you won't miss a moment here on the GSRC. The next race, another one with long straights and a lot of drafting. We're going to Watkins Glen. That'll be Monday, October 1st at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. Kicking off all the celebrations for a month of Halloween, I suppose. We also have upcoming series for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.